Well, fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating. My name is Jonathan Kroll, and I am, uh, I'm sorry, let me just turn off my phone. And I'm actually in transition. I earned my doctorate a year ago, a PhD in leadership with a focus in mentoring, group mentorship in particular. I own a business now that provides leadership development and mental toughness resiliency training for college athletes called the Institute for Leadership and Training, or TILT. And I'm creating a nonprofit organization that will facilitate leadership experiences in the global south, Nicaragua in particular. And the goal for the Institute is to be a two-tier operation. At a grassroots level, it will be a community center with programs for youth and women business owners, lectures and retreats and conferences. And at a grass tops level, it will become an academic master's program in leadership and organization development. And part of the reason I have an interest in group mentoring is because of the applications that we find for this type of developmental relationship presently for me within the sport context, working with athletes and coaches, and then also down the road in an academic context with a cohort in a university program, and then also in these roundtable scenarios like a mentoring program for women business owners in Nicaragua. So this session is really an opportunity to explore what is group mentoring, especially in the context of traditional one-to-one mentoring opportunities. So that, I think, is a good place to start. What is traditional mentoring? Well, we know it by the apprenticeship model, which is a one-to-one experience where a typically older, more experienced individual provides some kind of developmental experience for a younger, typically less experienced individual. And in this relationship, there's a difference between the mentor and the mentee. And we can think about the mentor in the context of the archetype, Jung's archetype, which the mentor then represents knowledge, reflection, insight, wisdom, all these amazing things, and they serve as guides in our life, as advisors, as advocates, as allies, as ambassadors for the amazing things that we're doing. And it's expected that the mentor transmits their knowledge, transmits their wisdom to the mentee, who receives all of this stuff. It's a one-directional type of relationship. Although of recent, a lot of folks are considering the notion of reverse mentoring, so the typically younger, less experienced individual does mentoring to a typically wiser, more experienced individual in a very specific focused area, for example, technology. And we're also talking about what's called a learning partnership, which is shifting the dynamic so that both mentors and mentees enter the relationship where both parties, both individuals, expect to gain, expect to learn, expect to grow in development from their experience together, rather than just the mentor engaging with the mentee in that way. Mentoring in this way, the apprenticeship model, is also part of our subconsciousness because of characters that we see when we're very, very young, or stories that we hear when we're very young. In myths, folklore, fairy tales, we can think of Merlin the magician as a mentor to King Arthur. We can think about the fairy godmother as a mentor to Cinderella. We can think about Mr. Miyagi in pop culture as a mentor to Daniel in The Karate Kid, both the original one from the 80s as well as the newer one that just came out a number of years ago. So because of all of these experiences that we have growing up, either listening or watching, we have an understanding of what mentoring relationships are in the traditional sense. In terms of research, we commonly find it in the workplace, with youth, in higher education contexts, although we know that mentoring relationships take place almost everywhere: veterans, religious communities, addiction, and these experiences over millennia, I mean, since mentoring was established, result in very positive things for mentees, mentors, and organizations alike. Notwithstanding, it can also be, and it has been, destructive, exclusive, and can perpetuate socializing forces that produce inequities. And so this has happened in a number of ways. For instance, women and minorities have been exempt from participating in formal and in informal contexts. So informally, we can think of private clubs, a golf club or a social club, where women and people of color have been barred from participating. And in those spaces, typically white men of power would engage in mentoring relationships with other white men of power. And formally, we can think about it in organizational context, where the chief executive officer or president of an organization wants to create a mentoring opportunity and wants to engage with somebody whom he feels comfortable and familiar, which tends to be another typically white individual. Additionally, mentoring in this way can be enacted in a banking methodology, where mentees become repositories of information rather than it becoming a two-way shared experience. The mentees are just at the receiving end. The mentors deposit knowledge and information and direct everything in one way. And then also, in traditional mentoring relationships, there may be a very strong hierarchical difference where the mentor holds the power and authority in the experience, which can result potentially in oppressive, degrading, and dehumanizing actions. So this type of negative and dysfunctional mentoring does have some implications, which may lead to less learning for the mentee and mentor, lower amounts of felt support, a depressed mood, job withdrawal within an organizational or corporate context, and higher levels of stress. And within organizational contexts, this may lead to reductions in new ideas, cooperation amongst colleagues, zest for self-improvement and engagement in the workplace, and positive attitudes towards the organization. And so we know that that hurts the bottom line, right? When people are not feeling innovative or empowered within the workplace, their engagement drops, and that's not healthy for the organization. So it's for these general reasons that group mentoring has had a resurgence in practice and has become, of recent, only over the last maybe 15 years, an area of scholarly interest. Now, I want to make it clear, though, that traditional one-to-one mentoring is incredibly powerful and has been so incredibly important in the learning, growth, and development of individuals. And at times, for some, it has also been damaging, destructive, oppressive. And so group mentoring is an alternative that may allow for individuals to feel engaged in a very positive, healthy growth opportunity. And so in this constructivist approach, learning, growth, and development is actively composed of those members being together, the social engagement of the participants. And so the intentionality of coming together and being together and co-constructing the experience, everybody's voice at the table, is of critical concern with group mentoring. Knowledge is also embedded within each of the participants' own experiences their own values, their own attitudes, and their own beliefs, so that each participant is expected to contribute their knowledge. And so everybody is welcomed, is valued and valuable to the mentoring experience because of what they offer in others' learning, growth, and development. And power dynamics are purposefully challenged and authority is shared. And so by that, the notion of one person holding the responsibility for mentoring is debunked, and it's shared amongst the group, amongst all of the participants in the experience. And so visually, we might see it as a comparison where in a one-to-one traditional apprenticeship model approach, the mentor is directing much of the learning, growth, and development to the mentee, where in the constructivist group mentoring approach, it's shared, where everybody is seen as a collaborator, and the arrows are pointing in every direction to articulate how important it is that everybody is seen as a collaborator, everybody's seen together in this joint experience as collaborators, as co-connectors. So there are 4 different types of structures to group mentoring. There's a one-to-many structure, which is one individual playing sort of a role of mentor, tends to have a little bit more experience and wisdom, depending on that context, with many individuals that play more of a mentee role, have less experience, but they all come to the table as sharers, as collaborators, as people who have knowledge and wisdom and can offer that to others. The opposite is also true. It's a many-to-one model where there are many mentors engaging with a mentee. This is also sometimes called a developmental network. And then there's team-based, which is when individuals come together who tend to lean on playing the mentor role, and individuals who come together who lean on playing the mentee role. As a group, they engage together in a collective mentoring experience. And then the most popular is peer group mentoring. And peer group mentoring is when everybody in the group, everybody in that space comes together and plays both roles. Everybody plays the mentor role, everybody plays the mentee role for the length of the experience, and they challenge and support one another towards goal accomplishment or to work through struggles. And so that's different than the previous 3 because each individual plays both roles depending on the needs of the mentoring experience. So with that, I want to talk about some examples of mentoring to provide some context of how these show up. One is a historical example, which is Benjamin Franklin and the Leather Apron Club. Before Benjamin Franklin was who we know him to be, he was a printer in Philadelphia as a young man. He owned his own print shop, and he also felt disconnected from the politics of the city, and he wanted to be more invested in bringing about change within civic society in Philadelphia. And so he gathered with a number of his friends, a number of his colleagues who all donned a leather apron as a protection for their bodies and their clothes and the work that they were doing. So these are all tradesmen. He was a printer. And they got together every single week at a bar, at a pub, and they met to talk about 3 things. They met to discuss how they were going to enhance their personal development, how they were going to build professional skills to enhance the work they were doing, and how they could work on projects together that would be for what they called social utility or social good, community service, essentially. And so they engaged in this way for years, and it was a group of 8, and there was a revolving door of sorts where over time some men came in and some men left, but they had a strict structure to who would be allowed in and who would be able to participate. And the idea was they did not want this to be just open to anybody. They wanted to make sure that everybody who was involved was going to be dedicated to this experience, that everybody involved was going to have their heart in it and would be able to contribute to the learning, growth, and development of the others, would be able to take what they learned from their collaborators and apply it to their workplace. And those who were willing to really get their hands dirty with creating projects that would help the city. And so some of the projects that are the direct result of this group was the first garbage pickup operation in the city, a regular firefighting service, a street cleaning service, the first subscription library in this country, an educational institute that became University of Pennsylvania, Penn. And so this group grew to be quite powerful because of how they were able to create change in a city that was rooted in things that were so necessary and important for that community. On top of course, growing and learning personally and gaining professional skills. And then we can connect about some contemporary examples. So Sheryl Sandberg wrote a book called Lean In, and she has since created what's called Lean In Circles, and more information can be found at leanin.org. And there are, based on a recent count on the website, 27,000 circles all across the globe that are predominantly for women, and it's not based professionally. So individuals can sign up in various locations based on personal interests or goals that one might have either professionally or personally. These are also self-directed groups. So the groups decide for themselves how they want to mentor one another, how they want to challenge and support one another. And this is also then a peer group mentoring experience. They do also have a structure associated so that each of these individual circles are then connected to a wider chapter. So if we think about Boston, Massachusetts, where I'm from, there might be 24 or 36 circles, lean-in circles in the city that are connected to a chapter. And so the lean-in organization provides various resources to help the groups figure out what their mentoring identity is going to be, what the appropriate conversations might be for mentoring circles, to help facilitate the conversations. But each group is able to determine for themselves how they want to operate and what they want to do as a mentoring group. We can also look at an organization called Tempo Milwaukee, which is based in Greater Milwaukee. And the opportunity there is to gather professional, executive level women who are looking to advance their careers. And so this is a select group. There's a membership associated with joining the organization, Tempo Milwaukee. And it's limited to just those who hold these executive level positions of any industry. So it could be education, it could be manufacturing, it could be finance, it could be nonprofit, any industry, but they have to be the top level. The organization was founded in the late 70s because women who were in these positions of power then did not feel like they had the leadership development opportunities or the mentoring opportunities to advance their career within their organizations. And so they founded this organization, Tempo Milwaukee, in order to establish leadership development and mentoring experiences that could help them grow and learn and develop. And it's been consistent since then. And so these circles within Tempo Milwaukee provide outlets for the women to engage in mentoring. They do have a structure, and so if somebody is interested in participating in one of the mentoring circles through Tempo Milwaukee, then they submit their application of sorts, their profile document, to the organization or the subcommittee within the organization, so that individuals can be assigned to groups where there's not necessarily a conflict of interest. So for example, they don't want two people both in the financial services industry in the same group because there might be a conflict of interest based on the dialogue that they have within the mentoring conversation. Once the groups are established, though, each group determines what they want their mentoring experience to be about, how they want their mentorship to unfold. And so they engage collaboratively as a group of 6 to 8 to determine if they want it to be very formal with PowerPoint presentations, or if they want it to be more informal and meet at a quiet restaurant over the lunch hour to share challenges and to get advice and suggestions from one another. That too is a peer group mentoring experience. True North groups is another type of group mentoring model. In fact, a book was written by Bill George and Doug Baker called True North Groups. Here we are. That explores what these groups are and how they operate. Essentially, it's mixed gender groups. They talk very broadly. It's not a formal organization or a way to join. They suggest, though, that these groups create a space for intimate and deep dialogue and for exploration of challenges that individuals are facing. It was first described as a renewal group by the authors, and as friends who wanted to take their relationship to the next level. And so they created these mentoring opportunities where individuals could find or pursue their true north, their truest self, their sense of authenticity. And then we also have some formal group mentoring groups. So we can think about Women in Film. We can think about the Association of Women in Science. Now, these are professional associations, and so individuals join this association with fees, with dues, and they're granted access to mentoring circles, mentoring groups. And in those spaces, they tend to have one or two people who play the mentor role, and then a number. It could be 3 to 6 individuals who play the mentee role. And so in these groups, you have individuals who are more experienced in the industry, providing insight and guidance and a reflection opportunity for those who have less experience in the industry. And so that allows for all of the participants to come together and feel supported, feel like they can contribute, but is guided by these individuals who play the mentor role. And as a mentor in these two, Women in Film and the Association of Women in Science, there are special trainings to assist these individuals, these women who are in the mentor role, in facilitating the conversations when the groups gather. For all of these groups, Lean In, Tempo Milwaukee, True North, and Women in Film, the opportunities for engagement ranges. Some of them it's once a month, others it's 6 times a year, so once every other month, and a lot of that is determined by the actual groups themselves based on the needs of the members. So that's just a little survey of the mentoring groups, the landscape of contemporary and historical examples. I've also drafted an article that came out in the Journal of Mentoring, the Mentoring and Tutoring Partnership and Learning Journal. What is meant by the term group mentoring? Today, most of the research in group mentoring has focused on the rationale for these experiences, why they exist as compared to traditional one-to-one mentoring, as well as the outcomes of experiences. What are the results? What is the impact of group mentoring? And so what I wanted to do in this article was express what exactly do we mean by this term group mentoring. So that can be found at the website listed, the link listed there. With that, I'd love to open up the space for questions and comments and engage in a little bit of a dialogue in order to make this presentation a little bit more responsive to your interests.
All right, and whoever wants to talk, you can just raise your hand and I will unmute you. So you can go ahead and do that now if you'd like. Any questions? I think Pat is on the line. So we have a question from Grady. Will the slides be available?
Yes. Yeah, I'll work with David to make sure those are available, or I can email them to the participants directly.
Anybody else have any questions? They said thank you, by the way. Anybody want to talk or have any comments? Just raise the little, click the hand. Oh, okay, I think I have someone.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. Now we can, yeah.
Yeah, it's Fernando Zacarias from Fairfax in Virginia. I'm sorry I missed part of the conference, but I wanted to ask you, I have been mentoring young professionals for since 1987. And for the last 2 years, I have been mentoring 2 or 3 at the same time. I have joined 2 international groups, and now I'm mentoring people in Canada, in Colombia, in the Gambia, in Sydney, and in Amsterdam. We usually meet one-on-one, but about once a month, we meet all together via Skype. I use Skype with my mentees. Would you consider that as being group mentoring?
Fernando, thank you so much. That's a great question. You know, I think a lot of it depends on what the conversations are when you're actually connecting over Skype. Mm-hmm. From the sound of it, the format where you're meeting one-on-one and also as a group, it sounds like that is certainly a mentoring relationship. But, you know, mentoring is one developmental relationship of many, right? We can think about supervising and advising and coaching and sponsoring and teaching and parenting. I mean, these are all developmental relationships, and they're also different from one another. And so we can think about mentoring as a very intentional relationship rooted in both challenging and supporting others as they work towards goal accomplishment or to work through struggles. And so if the conversations as a group that you're having is a mentoring conversation where you're really supporting and challenging one another, to make great things happen, then
Right.
it sounds like that would be.
Okay.
And it sounds like it would be a type of experience where you're playing a traditional mentor role and the others are playing a traditional mentee role, although I'm assuming they're also providing amazing, valuable learning opportunities to their
Right.
peers in the
Right.
experience.
Right. And can I say something very, very rapidly? I divide my mentoring in three components. One of them is personal growth.
Yeah,
The second one is professional development, and the other one is technical issues.
yeah,
We are all working in global health. I'm a physician and an epidemiologist. And I'm 71 years old, and my mentees go from 21 to 38, the ones I have right now. And I meet for 1 hour once a week with all of them. With all of them once a month, but
yeah,
with each one of them once a week, 1 hour. And I continue to do that. Now, I'm beginning to organize a network of mentors and young mentees, but what I want to do is to have the mentors and international mentees in groups, teams that can interact with other groups, but no more than 2 or 3 mentees per mentor. Do you see that as a viable alternative? What I want to do is to have groups in different countries that will be able to do research and to come up with some solutions for some of the health and development problems. And I'm fortunate that I have people from many different countries. I had one in Lebanon before, and then I had people in CDC, in Atlanta, et cetera, et cetera. And I think this format, at least that's what I'm expecting, that will be useful. But I would like to have your opinion because I have only been doing this for 30 years.
yeah.
But not
Yeah.
formally, informally.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that format is fantastic. You may want to think about expanding the group to be a little bit larger so long as the participants are compatible, only because when the groups are too small and somebody's not able to make it,
Yeah.
that then means that everybody sort of like cancels it off the calendar.
Mm.
And so if 4 people are in the group and 1 person or 2 people can't make it, the mentality is, oh, let's just cancel and meet again next week or in next month.
Okay.
Where if the group is a little bit larger, 5 people, 8 people, then if somebody or 2 people cancels, the group still feels like there's consistency to meet and to engage and to collaborate and to mentor one another. So that's what I would consider. What I do love is that you're crossing the boundaries between personal development and professional development and the technical skills development.
Right.
Because all of that is so important, and it's so difficult for us to separate ourselves into various components and pieces. And so by ensuring that the mentoring experience crosses the boundaries, if each member is comfortable with that, allows for it to be a much more robust experience.
Yeah. And I measure the success of the mentorship by something that the mentees achieve. For example, if one of them is seeking a position or seeking to be accepted at the university,
Yeah.
or if somebody wants to do X, Y, Z, that's the way we measure that. And usually I have people for 9 months, and then they graduate, quote unquote, and then 2 years later I try to see where they are.
Yeah.
And they consult with me, they call me, or they send me an email if they have any problems. So we continue to have this long-term relationship.
Yeah.
And so far it has worked very well for me. It's so satisfactory. So when you mentioned that it was an industry, well, I think it's a vocation, and well, I don't know if you mentioned that or if I misunderstood, but I don't see this as a business. I see this as a way of transferring experience and wisdom which is very important to young
Absolutely.
people.
Absolutely.
Sorry for extending myself so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I also want to say, Búzios in Brazil is one of my favorite places.
Right. Oh, okay, great.
Thank you so much.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else that has any questions? You can go ahead and raise your hand. Or you can go ahead and type in your question over here. Oh, okay, I think we have I'm not understanding this one. Can you speak about e-mentoring, number one?
Sure.
Diversity, number two. Yeah, if you can speak on those two, I guess.
Yeah. So for the same reasons that group mentoring has become so popular in certain contexts, is the same for e-mentoring. So e-mentoring is electronic mentoring. So it might be through Skype, or it might be through WebEx, or it might be a video conference, or through email. This is my personal preference. I like to be engaged with people, and so email mentoring I find very difficult because I want to engage and see and respond to the emotions of those with whom I'm engaging. So it is certainly possible. But the reason it's become so popular is because we know that our time is constrained. It's limited. And so e-mentoring allows for us to engage with people who are well beyond our physical location, who are in need of mentoring, or if we are in need of mentoring. Just like group mentoring allows for many individuals to get together at a common time rather than splitting an individual to be mentored by many, or to be the mentor to many. So there is a lot of value in it. A lot of it relates to the actual participants and how well they can immerse themselves in a mentoring relationship electronically. So it can be powerful. A lot of it depends on the individuals. In terms of diversity, one of the core components of group mentoring in the literature is that it is intentionally inclusive, that we look to create opportunities to bring in diverse participants into our mentoring groups, specifically those who have been exempt, women and people of color historically, so that we can create opportunities for holistic and wide-ranging learning, growth, and development to pursue the perspectives of many diverse others. And so as we think about creating group mentoring experiences, I certainly suggest and argue for thinking about who's missing in the group, and how do we invite and encourage and empower those missing individuals to come to the circle, to come to the table and participate in that mentoring experience.
Okay, just a reminder.
And I do want to actually say, in any type of mentoring relationship, one-to-one or in group, it's not appropriate to force people to participate. In fact, that typically leads to a destructive or dangerous mentoring experience that typically leads to the mentoring imploding. And so as much as we certainly want to encourage diverse participants to engage, we don't want to be in a position where we're forcing people, because that will most likely lead to the results that we're not searching for.
Okay, I just wanted to add that a full recording will be available at the Mentoring Association website. if you're a member, it's going to be right under recent posts. But if you would like a copy of the webinar, I can email it to you myself. My email is also on our website. So just reminding anybody in case you guys were late, because we have a couple new participants. And by the way, you guys can also ask questions right now. So someone currently has a question. I'm going to unmute them. I think you're good.
Okay, thank you very much, David. And Jonathan, this is Margot Murray. Thank you for your presentation and your sharing of your research. And I want to also suggest to Fernando another resource that's relevant to his work in public health, an article published by the International Society for Performance Improvement Journal. It was authored by Sarah Clark with the David and Lucille Packard Foundation and by myself, who worked on developing leadership in reproductive health in 7 African and Asian countries and 5 Latin American countries. And if you go on the ISPI website, you should find that article in the PIJ.
Thank you, Margot. Any other thoughts or questions?
Does anybody else have any questions? No? Okay, it looks like that's it for questions. If you missed the first half, the recording will be made available at the Mentoring Association website, or you can email myself or any of the other IMA staff that are listed on the website, and you can get a full recording. And I would like to thank everyone for coming, and thank you for presenting. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
And I guess I'm going to shut down the event now. Everyone have a great day. All right, I guess that's it. Thank you.